Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adamo Baseball, where I'm your host, Adamo. And in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's about all the optimism I really have. Honestly, Richard Rodriguez, their closer, may make the All-Star game. That's because Pittsburgh has to have somebody at the game. They do have one really good prospect, of what I've read. Brian Hayes. Apparently, he's like their top guy that they're expected to call up this season. A successful season is Brian Hayes makes the All-Star game and proves to be a good developmental player. Honestly, this is a 100-plus loss team. I mean, I always hope I'm wrong whenever I make statements like that. I do. I seriously hope I'm wrong. I just don't see it. They've been catching a lot of flack in the media for possibly being the worst team in baseball, if at least one of the worst teams in baseball. Not necessarily the worst, but not far from it, and I just told you there are two bright spots. They're not going to be competitive at the All-Star break. They're not going to trade away their best prospect, but don't be surprised if they trade away some other players. They're looking more like a Major League Baseball version of a AAA team. There's really not much. Before I start bashing them anymore, I'm sorry, okay? I don't like doing that, but I have to give my honest opinion. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get into the lineup. Leading off, Adam Frazier, second base. He's not a bad player. He's not an all-star. Really, honestly, he's the kind of guy I'd more like to put sixth in the lineup. He's not a power hitter. He does not draw that many walks. He doesn't strike out as much. He's actually one of the few players on the team with some experience, though he's not exactly phenomenal. He's not bad as far as the second baseman goes. Second in the lineup, Brian Hayes, third base. Okay, this is the guy I was saying is supposed to be like their top prospect, really making the jump to the league this year. I think he played a couple games last year, but this is his big break, and he's expected to start this year. So this is going to be his shot to prove that he can be that developmental player, and I wish him all the best. I hope that he solidifies that third base spot and gives us something to look forward to when we watch the Pittsburgh Pirates play baseball. Batting third, Brian Reynolds, left field. This is another guy that belongs somewhere between 6 and 8 in the lineup, not third. That's about all I got to say. Batting fourth, Colin Moran. He wasn't a bad hitter per se, but he's not exactly a power hitter either. I know Josh Bell just got signed away by the Washington Nationals. I get it. But they need to have some kind of power on that team, and top to bottom, there is no power. Okay, this team's going to finish dead last in home runs. As I've said plenty of times in the past, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. But I really think this team will be last in home runs this year. Colin Moran, he's not a bad hitter, but he's not a home run hitter. And looks like he has been third base most of his career. And the Pirates are going to move him over to first to make room for Ke'Bryan Hayes. So, hey, if it works out, great. Batting fifth, Gregory Polanco, right field. He's a little more well-known. He may actually be a guy that gets traded more to give teams depth than it would be to try to, like, he can start in Pittsburgh, but he's not going to start anywhere. And when I was looking, again, he's not a bad hitter, but he's not a home run hitter. Don't be surprised if you hear his name come up a lot in July for the trade deadline. I think he's going to be one of those guys that ends up coming up quite a bit for that. Batting sixth, Eric Gonzalez, shortstop. He's been in the league for a few years, but he really hasn't played a full season. He might have played one full season, but for the most part, not really. Looks like he's a decent shortstop, but he's about where he belongs in the lineup. Sixth. Seventh, Anthony Alford, center field. Again, in the league for a few years, hasn't played in a ton of games. I think he played half a season, literally 81 games 3 years ago. So I wouldn't put money down on that. Batting eighth, Jacob Stallings, catcher. Dude's got 150 at-bats for his whole career. He made his major league debut in 2016. Dude's barely played. So this is his shot at making a big break. So really, this is his time. This is his chance to prove that he belongs higher than eighth in a lineup. Now, on paper, his numbers don't look bad, but you look at the number of games that he's played, that's where the issue comes in. So really, can he play a full season at that same level? Because on paper, it looks like he's about a 250 hitter, but he doesn't have enough games to really back that up. So if he can go a full season and maintain that, then I'll be singing his praises. But I don't know. The lineup as a whole, now that I've gone through the whole lineup, it's got a prospect. It's got a trade chip. I really hate having to say that at this point in the season, that like already talking about a guy that's going to be a trade chip 4 months from now. But that's honesty. Maybe an all-star if something happens to their closer, which is also possible. That's about it for the lineup. The rotation, this is one of the worst rotations I've ever seen. It kills me to say that. Number one in the rotation, Steven Brault. Should probably be third or fourth. He's not a one guy. He's not even a two guy. He's a low-end three. Mitch Keller, same story. They both have had one decent year, but they're not 1 and 2 guys. Pitching third, Tyler Anderson. He's not good. Chad Cole, JT Brubaker. For the other two, they do belong in the 4 and 5 spots. Really, this whole rotation, like, I don't know that I even want to really dig in that much deeper. You got 5 guys that belong in at best a low 3 for a rotation. Either they need to draft better or they need to sign a ton of free agents. Because that pitching staff, it's going to take you nowhere. They may have one do well enough to be a trade chip, kind of like Gossman was for the Orioles back in 2017. Yeah, they're trying to trade him as a 1 or 2, and everyone else is like, no, this is a 4 or 5 guy. Well, that's probably what's going to happen with the Pirates rotation. They're going to have a guy that's good enough to be able to trade and get at least something. More likely, just prospects. Because, look, this team is not going to be competitive, and they're not going to be competitive for a while. And this rotation shows no signs of life. Their closer, Richard Rodriguez. This is the guy that's probably going to make the All-Star game. I had heard of him before I started looking this up, and I really didn't know a lot about him, mostly because I just don't have a reason to. But this is probably your All-Star. Not necessarily because he's going to be pitching like an all-star, but because the Pirates got to have somebody at the game. And he's probably going to be the representative. Again, I hope I'm wrong about all this. The bullpen, it's not much better. Chris Stratton, Michael Feliz, and Chasen Shreve. None of those guys really stand out. They're not terrible, but... And actually, Stratton and Feliz, last couple of years haven't been bad. As far as bullpen guys go, their ERAs are close to about 3, which is actually what you want. So, but that's also the last 2 years. Before that, it was not good. So maybe, just maybe, they can get their bullpen developed a bit so that they can actually start making some trades and try to get some pitching prospects. I know the old saying, there is no such thing as a pitching prospect, but if you can at least get a AAA guy for a pitcher, that way you can develop them in the minors, then they can keep working on this bullpen and then try to make the pitching staff at least somewhat respectable. I hate saying it like that. But yeah, even before I started making out anything for the National League Central, the only thing I was certain about is that I was going to pick Pittsburgh last. I didn't know who I was going to pick to win it, second, third, or fourth. I kind of had a feeling I would pick Milwaukee to finish fourth. Honestly, this is the one team I knew where I was going to put them, and I hadn't even looked at their roster yet. Any of it. I knew about Gregory Polanco. I had heard of Richard Rodriguez. And I knew about Adam Frazier. But I knew that Josh Bell was signed away. And frankly, at that point, I didn't think that Pittsburgh had anything left after he was signed away. Now that I've researched this, I don't think they really have anything else left. Those are my thoughts on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And if you'd like to let me know your thoughts, you can do so down in the comments below. Or if you're listening on my podcast, you can come to my YouTube channel and throw me a comment there. Or you can just send me a message on Instagram. I'll talk about it there. Or I'll talk about it, or maybe make a reaction video. Who knows? It'll be quaint. With that being said, Thank you for listening. Cheers until next time.